Hello and welcome to Seven Figure Conversations with Asa Leveaux. I am your host, Asa Leveaux, and just so that you are aware, you are in the right place at the right time for the right reason. If you have absolutely no idea what this show is all about, Seven Figure Conversations shows you the journey of those who have already created what you and I both desire to create, and that is what? Seven-figure businesses to have that seven-figure lifestyle. So why did I just include myself? Because I'm transparent that I have not done it yet. I'm close though, like, ooh, I'm close though. But I have not done it yet. Have not done it yet, but we're getting there. But in this journey that I've had, my thought was, okay, Asa, you don't talk to enough millionaires. Like if that's where you want to go, you be talking. So let me be very clear. When I wanted to become a member of Kappa Alpha Psi, what did I start doing? Talk to more Kappas. When I went to go to college, what did I do? I started talking to more people who went to college. When I wanted to become an officer in the Army, what did I do? I started talking to more officers. So it just made sense in my mind that I needed to speak to more individuals who had created $1 million in their businesses or are in fact millionaires, because of course there is a difference. Now, for those who are like Asa, but we don't know about who you are, well, let me introduce myself. I am known as the Icon Architect. What I do is provide luxury done-for-you solutions to experts who desire to be industry icons. That's what I do. We have a masterclass coming up called the Icon Bootcamp later on, but you'll get more information about that because that's not why we're here. Because I'm sure you already read the show notes about why we're here. We have someone dope. We have someone fire that I'm actually excited about. And I had to remember to start like recording this conversation because the pre-conversation was actually getting me hype, like actually hype. So without further ado, I'm bringing to you all the really smart, the really talented, like dope as fire, Shanayla Sweat. So, and she said I could call her Shay because I'm dope like that. So, Shay, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we're gonna get into it, but we're gonna get into it differently because I'm a different kind of host. I'm a different kind of host. So the first question I have for you, when you were 7, so we're going back to 7-year-old Shay, what did Shay dream about?
So when I was 7, because I used to be asked like, what do I want to become? Like, what are you gonna do when you get older? What are you gonna, are you gonna be a doctor? Are you gonna be a nurse? So I was always dreaming because I felt like that was putting me early. Like I should always aspire to be something and have a goal and a plan. So when I was 7, um, as early as 7, that's a good question. I knew I wanted to be something. I really admire my grandmother, and I still do. But I knew a lot of what I wanted to be was just like her. So my grandmother was like a director. She had all these people looking up to her. And so I knew I wanted to be like her, but I didn't know what it was. So around like after 7, I was like, I want to do what she does. I was like, I want to be a speaker. So I know when I was like 8 or 9, I used to tell myself like I want to be a speaker. And then when I was like maybe 11, I said I was going to be an architect. And then when I was 12, I had my first like entrepreneur experience, and I was like, I'm going to be like a business owner. So it's always changed and evolved, but I feel like it's always been something that I've aspired to be, and that's what's allowed me to just propel and grow along the way.
I dig that. So when you first desired to be a business owner, so you, of course, that started early, just the idea. What was, in fact, your first business?
So my very, very, very first business started in like third or fourth grade. So I don't know if you remember, and I don't want to tell your age or my age, but it used to be this fad with gel pens. So I don't know if you remember gel pens, but gel pens were like back in the day. Everybody just had like black and blue pens, and then gel pens came about, and it was like all of these colors and glitter, and it was just ink with a little sprinkle of something. And so I remember going from third to fourth grade, at my school, they didn't have the colors. Like all the girls and the guys, they had just the black and blue. And so at my local Walgreens, they had all of these colors. I started getting the colors and people started asking me, and I started selling the gel pens. So that was like my first little hustle, like way back when, where I knew that I had something and I knew people wanted and they would pay me for it. So like that's my earliest, foundation of me being like, this is a need, like people want it. And then my first business where I really put things together in terms of like a business plan and target audience and knowing who I was speaking to. I was about 11 or 12. I actually was in this program that went by the name of CEO Academy. So the whole entrepreneur. And so at that time, within the program, I wanted to do these plaques. So I was really into creativity at the time, meaning like arts and stuff like that. And so I remember my mom had me in this art program and we did a lot with like clay. And so I was like, what can I do with these clay plaques that people would, dig and buy? And so at the time, I just started writing stuff on the plaques, and then we would let it dry out, and it would turn into something people could put on their wall as a placeholder. And so that was really like my first business. And I don't even remember if I had a name. That's why I tell people all the time, it's not even about a logo or a name. If you have something that people want, they'll buy it. So it's not even about that. And so that was like my first real business where I was like, well, who wants it? And I was like, women, they would want this on their wall. Like they would want, their name on it or a scripture. And so that was like my first real business that I actually had put some legwork in instead of like a hustle where I was like, okay, this is $5. Like, what you got? So,
I am so glad that you said that. As someone who also started my first, I'll say business, not business. The first little side little thing when I was 12 cutting grass, it so was not about the name. It was about, did I have the capacity and did I know how to get money? Like, I didn't walk up to someone's door and knock and impress them with cards and designs and branding. I said, do you want me to cut your grass? This is
right.
how much it is, yes or no. Like, that's business. That's just it. Because if you're not making money, you are not in business, you are in hobby. And that's
Right.
the deal. So, but even though you understand that, the branding and all that is not the most important part, what got you interested in understanding how an organization works? Because I
Mm.
see how dope you are as far as being um, just an expert in organizational change management. So, with that being concerned, how did you go from, I'm just going to do this because I think women will like it, to actually understanding an organization and the change that needs to happen?
So with organizational change management, it revolves a lot around people. And I think that's a huge component that people miss because they're focused on a video or a logo or XYZ, but they're missing that it's the person that's purchasing this. So what does this person care about? What does this person dream about? What is a fear? What is a pain point? What are you solving? And that's a lot of the work that we do in organizational change management that I feel it works well for me in my business and it works well for me in what I do in corporate. Understanding the psychology of why a person does what they do, why they purchase from you, why do they want to purchase, what's going to bring them back. And so I think really understanding that and having that from an organizational standpoint, if you know that people like to purchase or you want to purchase, you want to make the experience easy. If you know that this is a luxury item, what does this person perceive as luxury? If it's something that's inexpensive, what price point makes sense for it to be a cheap, or affordable item. The math like has to map, and it's not necessarily numbers we're talking about. We're talking about perception. So the perception, even from a change management standpoint, is I really make people feel that they are seen, that they are heard, and they are recognized. And that same principle applies to what we do in business. Like people feel seen, they feel heard, they feel acknowledged, so they connect to the brand outside of just a product. And then in corporate, they connect to me or our project because we care about the work that they do, or at least we give them the perception. And I do care, but we show value in them that they don't necessarily see before. And so that is what I feel like has been like my secret sauce with OCM, which is organizational change management in business.
Okay, so how does someone get into organizational change management? I went to school, and I paid attention, and I've never heard that that was something that someone could dive deep into. So how did that even become a possibility to you?
It is a thing. It is such a thing. I would say it's like a really well kept secret in tech, because it doesn't allow or require technical hard skills. It's peopling, knowing how people behave, knowing how you behave, knowing how to manage yourself, self awareness, confidence. A lot of soft skills is involved with organizational change management. So for me, at a young age, I started in tech. But when I started in tech, I started like as a tester, not some of these roles that didn't require coding. So if you ask me to code anything, you're going to have to go to YouTube University. That's not me. But, I knew people. Like I knew leadership. I knew how to serve others, and my degrees were in HR. So management and people has like always been my thing. But I knew that I also love to solve problems. I love to solve complex problems. I love dealing with people. Now I don't like people because I'm like, okay, 16. But I knew that I really enjoy watching people transform from one state to the other. And so I was like, what could I put together? Like, it has to be a role for me because I'm not trying to code, and it has to be something where I'm not somebody's supervisor. Like, I'm not here to just manage a task. Like, I'm here to transform. And so I got my Googles on. And like you said, you start asking people, like, well, what is it that you do? And what is it that you do? And people are like, I'm a project manager. I'm this. And I was like, I don't want to be a project manager. Like, that's not my thing. Went to a few other people. I'm like, they're like, I do this. I'm a scrum master. And so what a scrum master is in tech is like someone who really, they work with teams to better develop teams, to make sure that the team is like cross collaborating, that it's teamwork, collaboration, all of these people skills involved. And so I was like, well, I could be a scrum master. But the scrum master role, like I got a certification for that. I was like, I still don't think it entails everything. And so essentially what I found out is like a project manager and a scrum master is like an OCM baby, or organizational change manager baby. It's a hybrid. And so when I found that out, I was like, that's me. Like, that's 100% my makeup. Like, I like to lead people. I'm technical to an extent, meaning I know how things should work. But I knew that my core is the peopling piece. And so that is OCM as a whole. You wear a multitude of tasks, no 2 days are the same. And a lot of people don't know about it. And so what I want to do, or what I've made it one of my missions, is to get more people into OCM, especially those who are degreed, right? It's a lot of people out here, they're degreed, they may be in the service industry. They may not be an entrepreneur, but they've done their due diligence, and now you working and you getting paid $20 an hour, or you're doing this and you're not really seeing the fruits of your labor. OCM is an industry that is booming, thriving. It's not going to go anywhere today alone. I think I may have received anywhere from 15 to 20 calls from recruiters, just asking like, hey, are you looking, are you interested? And it's not because I've made an announcement or anything, but it's because that industry is so fluid. So OCM is booming. It allows people to drive and mobilize change, and I'm one of those people who like to do those things.
I mean, you not only like, but apparently you're like really good at it because you transitioned 10,000 adult learners and employees to new roles, and more than 100 adult students with this. Like, you don't just like this. Like, you're like, I believe there's a reason you're getting 15 to 20 inquiries about what it is that you do, based on quantifiable results that you have. And thank you for the information about OCM, because I literally had no idea that it was on that level. But with what you've done with OCM, did that play, or how much of a role did it play in the brand that you have, which I'm excited to talk to you about? which is a few wood men. Yes,
Yeah.
everyone, I did not say a few good men. I said a few wood men. So with that brand, how did OCM play a part with that development?
I would say a huge piece. A lot of the OCM or change management strategies that I have grown accustomed to in corporate go hand in hand with a few admin. And so what I mean by that is it's not enough to tell people what to do. You have to lead and be hands-on. And so for me, there's not one role that I have hired for that I have not walked in before. Meaning every single thing within my company I've done it, whether that's shipping, whether that's customer service, whether that's delivery, whether that's me doing anything. I'm not too above. I don't care how big we get. I'm not too above. If it's Christmas and we backed up, okay, I'm going to the warehouse. I'll be there Saturday. I'm down there with my staff, and we all packing, we all doing things. And I think those leadership capabilities that come from OCM is why my employees tend to stay, which is why I have good relationships with my employees. And it also allows the brand perception for us to seem so much bigger than what we are. Meaning, I have a very lean team, as one should, but the brand perception for those who go on the website or you go on our socials or you see us outside is like, whoa, what is this? Can I put stocks into this brand? Can I work for y'all? So it's a lot of that because of the brand perception. Also going back to OCM and how people live, right? Their behaviors is key to how people shop. And so what I mean by that is we're a luxury brand. We provide luxury service. And everything that you touch should have that same feel. So what I mean by that is and I'm very hands-on with the brand. So like when we put stuff out, I'm like, wait a minute, I needed to see that. And it's not so much that I'm trying to micromanage, but it's like it has to be in alignment with the brand, meaning it has to speak, it has to talk to, it has to do all of these things that give the perception that I'm buying luxury, like this is worth my investment. So we don't have customers who say, or if we do have customers who talk about like the price, they're not our customer. So I'm like, okay, like if they're like, oh, this is too high, this is for me. Okay, you're not our customer. Like you're not who we talking to begin with. So those who do spend with us, they are excited, they are proud, like they share, and they also feel very invested in the brand because the perception matches, like we match that energy. So you shop with us, when you open the packaging, you're like, oh, they put money into their packaging. Oh, they did this. Okay, they put money into that. So they can tell that the process has been well thought out for the person who is going to take ownership of this timepiece.
So for those of you who have not, went to afewwoodmen.com or been to the Instagram page, A Few Woodmen, let me just paint a picture. Imagine that there is a brand that highlights melanated people in a way that I have never, ever, ever, ever seen on a consistent basis. And I am someone who is a reader of such publications like The Rake and The Rob Report. So I am very comfortable learning about luxury brands, whether they be, like $75,000 cognacs or,
Mm-hmm.
vineyard experiences that are upwards to $100,000. Like I'm comfortable reading those things. And so the images that usually are with those stories or their editorial moments are such that a few wood men could easily be in one of those publications. And so, if you are someone that values melanated skin, I didn't say you have to have it, but you value it and you
Right.
understand the value that it brings in an inherent divine level, you just need to go and just bask in the luxury, in the chocolatiness of what it is. I wasn't expecting to go to that website and see what I saw and feel what I felt when I did. I almost felt like I needed like a cup of hot chocolate, living single playing. Um, like I needed to create a moment while I'm scrolling through. It gives that. That's what it gives. And as someone who, as for those of you who are seeing this, you see the bracelets on my arm. You see that these are accessories, are things that I value. I feel like my bracelets are usually conversation starters, and I get to showcase that. Let's just face it, I'm not basic. So, and I get to tell stories of where I got them from, or where I was at. Like, this came from Thailand, this came from Brazil, and get to tell about people's brands. And that's what A Few Woodmen did for me in under a minute.
Mm.
Under a minute. It didn't take me all day. I didn't do price comparisons or brand comparisons. At this moment, I don't even know a brand that is doing what you're doing, how you're doing it. Like the thumbprint is so significant and deep that I don't even think anyone could ever duplicate you. And if they tried, they would spend a lot of money to try. And that's just my little taste on Few Women. And no, Shay did not pay me to say any
No,
of it, not at all. Like that's just what I felt. And I want to be a part of that club. Like I'm like, okay, so what is there like a Few Woodmen meetup? Is there a destination
so
pack?
there will be.
Like I want to join all of that. So please tell us what was your okay, I'll ask it this way. Why did Few Woodmen have to happen?
I think you explained it very well. So if you go to our about page, when I started the brand, it was really to pay homage and honor to my grandfather. So my grandparents are to this day my best friends. So I am super close to my grandparents. They've always been like that stability factor. Period. I can call them today and be like, "This is the tea," and they're gonna be like, "Spill it, like tell me." So like they're very, fundamental to me. And so when I was building out the brand, having him in mind and really wanted to like honor who he is, I realized quickly like my grandpa is swaggy. He's 82 turning 83, but he ain't in the house sitting down on no cane, like can't do nothing. No, if you see him, male or female, you aspire to be that. Especially if you see my grandparents, like they're young and mind active. They still go out, they still kick it, they have a good time, they still enjoy life. And I didn't see representation for that. I was like, okay, it's stuff out there, but it's not anything that represents his swag, his leadership, his being a black male. And that was just like so important to me to have that representation, because I was like, no, it is like my grandpa's everything to me. So I know y'all be talking about this person is absent and this one, but this one here, he's worth that recognition. And so when I was building out the brand, I had that in mind, and I really wanted people to replicate that same feeling for somebody that they too felt that was worth it. Somebody's been working and striving and showing up when they don't have to. And so that's why the brand is most needed. So I have never compromised on who it was for. Very intentional with this saying like, no, this is black, this is for the melanated. And like you said, if you're not, you can still buy. We don't, and like I think one of our FAQs is, can I purchase this if I'm not black? And I'm like, would you go to a Mexican restaurant if you're not Mexican? Yes. Like, so if you're not asking new questions, why are you asking us questions? So it's that same type of thing where it's very intentional of who it's for, and the representation that we provide is all intentional. And so even in terms of like our storytelling, like the majority of our products are named after individuals that I know. So like the Montez is our bestseller. That is my brother. I have one brother. And that's our best selling. But even when I was naming watches, it was in honor and remembrance of those individuals, to be like, yeah, this is my brother, this is my nephew, this is my uncle, this is my cousin, this is this person, or maybe this person had this impression on my life even as an adult. So I wanted it to be inclusive, but I also wanted it to represent like the Emmanuels and the Xaviers and the whatever, because those names you don't see in mainstream either. So I wanted to add those names to be like, okay, this is not only recognizable by name for our people, but also to say like this is luxury, and Xavier, you are luxury, like you are, a man of valor. So it was very much intentional to put those names with the watches to have that feel, to have us show up. Same thing with our models. I very really try to have good representation with our models to be sure to have like darker tones, lighter tones, caramel, every color, and to show that, and like different body types, and really just trying to explore all of what we can do, that makes sense with like our audiences. But that is why A Few Women is the way that it is. That's why it's needed. That's what separates from our competitors, and so on and so forth.
Makes complete sense to me, like complete sense. And I would love to know, building this seven-figure brand, A Few Wood Men, what are some things that you experienced along the way that you wish you wouldn't have had to experience, even though, of course, looking back, you get it. It was for its own good. You're glad you went through it. It taught you a valuable lesson. But what were some things that were like, you know what? That was challenging, or that was difficult, or people that are out here building e-commerce brands need to understand, because I didn't know that part, and people need to know before they go into this.
Yeah, so one thing I will say, products are a beast within itself. So products, in my opinion, and everybody may not feel the same way, but I feel like products are easier than services in a sense, because a product is typically a liability before it's an asset. And what I mean by that is, before I've even sold, I've made an investment or a purchase or XYZ. So as your brand or your business grows, at every level it breaks. And what I mean by that is, you go from a $500 invoice to a $5,000 invoice to a $50,000 invoice to now your latest invoice is 500,000, right? So it changes at every level, to where what may have worked in on an operation side or manufacturing side, it will no longer work at your next level. So that was like something where I really had to wrap my mind around, to where I'm like, okay, for every level, like you're having to do this, you're having to change this may not work anymore. So that's like a huge thing in e-commerce. I don't think people realize, like, hey, if you're going to do products, especially, every level is a new level untapped. Another thing that I had experienced that, if I could do all over again, is when I first got into a fulfillment center or a warehouse. That was a complete disaster. And so, what I mean by that is, I got into this warehouse and I was so excited. And I was like, oh, yes, I don't have to ship anymore. Because I had gotten so big at the time that literally I had watches like in my room, in my bed, in the kitchen, like here. And when I started the brand, I started in an Airbnb. So I was like staying in an Airbnb, and I was like getting so many orders where I was like, oh my gosh. And so when I got into this fulfillment center, I had the illusion that because they were a fulfillment center, that they would care about our products and our brand just as much as I did, and they did not. And I think that really matters in terms of you being just, very just very intentional on who you hire. And then also understanding what questions you may need to ask, even a fulfillment center. So for me, I was asking like the general questions, like, well, how much does it cost? What can go on the back, the box or the packaging? But I wasn't really asking questions about their culture, their values, and you should do that same thing with the fulfillment center. So when I got into fulfillment center one, and I won't name who this fulfillment center is, I'll say this, like we need a PTSD support group here in Atlanta, because they didn't jacked a whole bunch of brands up outside of mine, and we didn't have a lot of discussions. So people who are watching this, they might know and put it in the comments. But long story short, they did not care about my brand or other brands. And for e-commerce, that's the final product that you get shipped to you is actually like the first impression, right? Because now I'm opening the box and I'm expecting a watch, I'm expecting a bracelet, I'm expecting XYZ. They were sending my customers bundles, like this bundle. I mean, they were, yes, I mean, stuff that just was outrageously crazy. And it makes you almost feel crazy as a business owner, because you don't have any control over that piece. So it's like when you leave your products at a fulfillment center, y'all are on track for packaging, and you get the wrong order, I can't come up with an excuse for that. You know, it's not something where I did it, but I have to take full ownership because it's my company. So that was a huge thing to really understand that all fulfillment centers are not the same, and to really interview them just as you would any other employee in terms of what they care about, how their logistics are, what are your culture, what are your values. Because what would end up happening is they weren't big on communication. They weren't big on transparency. When they had issues going on with supply chain and internally with their warehouse, they weren't communicating that. So we are trying to be transparent with our customers to say, hey, we had some issues. This is what's going on. This is what you could expect. And they were like, well, no, nothing's going on. Yes, it is going on. Like, we sending hell over here and you playing like everything is all right. So being sure that that stuff is in order if you're moving, to not move so quickly that you forget about what matters. And it's making sure that they care about your products just as much as you do.
Facts. And yeah, third-party logistics partners, that's a significant conversation that a lot of times people don't have. And I remember when I was looking at products, I wasn't interviewing, I was asking the types of questions that you said that you had asked in the beginning about price, what's your deliverability like what's your capacity for SKUs, all those types of things. And I'm like, this is a lot. Like, this is a lot for them, because you're giving them so much control, because you're giving them control over that first experience with your customer. And
Yes.
that is that's just important. It's like if you were going on a first date and you're outsourcing your first date.
Yes. You a catfish.
Yeah,
That's
you
what he's
totally
giving.
catfish. And you don't want to be catfished in these streets, but you're doing your best. You don't know what you don't know. And then here we are with a whole contract with a raggedy.
Yes. And you feel like you've done everything right, where you're focused on the packaging and the shipping and stuff like that. But I was like, well, I didn't even know to ask them questions about, okay, well, what happens if a customer gets the wrong package? Like, what do you do in those situations? What happens, XYZ? Well, what does your team do to support, campaigns or launches or just anything? So stuff that really would have gave me indicators in terms of their character and handling, it would have shaped, because potentially, I talk about it all the time to local entrepreneurs here. I know that put my business in a bad spot at the time, and I really had to imagine. We're under 5 years, so at this time, this is like year two, and so I'm like, she did that to my brand, but imagine how many brands were killed off because of those same errors and mishaps that happened. Too many, because one is too many. So I just say all that to say fulfillment is such a key component. Being able to evolve as you grow is such a key component, because that's what happens too. And so what I've seen with some brands that are a bit bigger than mine, where we don't have issues, is like customer service I do in my sleep and operations I do in my sleep. But I know that for them, revenue and cash was the first thought, and operations and customer service was the second. And so what ended up happening is they grew too big. You don't got people in place for customer service. You don't have people in place for operations. So it's almost like that also kills brands. So making sure that as you grow, you're prepared for the next level of growth.
You brought up a very good point, because I only learned today that 67%, and yes, 67% of all companies featured on the Inc. 5000 list fail in 5 years, because one of the reasons why, because they put so much emphasis on growth and not sustainability.
Yes.
So I completely understand what you're saying. And in that same vein, I'm going to ask this, because I have conversations with people that are not in business or just starting out in business. And I talk to them about, the $1 million revenue goals that I have, that I've seen others accomplish. And they sometimes treat or speak of seven-figure earners, seven-figure businesses as though, well, they wouldn't have a problem because they're them. And I'm like, they actually do have challenges. You just aren't
Mm-hmm.
aware or even mindful of those, because sometimes people think that it's just a money thing. As long as we get the money, as long as we get the revenue up, profit margin good or profit margin bad, if we just get that revenue up, all of our challenges will be erased. Can you speak
Mm.
to that conception? Or is it a
Yeah,
myth?
I think that's a huge misconception. I mean, I have it in my family too, right? So I've had certain conversations with people, and they're like, "Well, you don't have to worry about that. You here, you there, you doing." And I'm like, "What?" But I think it just kind of goes back to, like I said, it's like you have to reframe that same question, because at one point I had $50 invoices. Now I have $50,000 invoices. Like, that's a completely different conversation. I used to have $100,000 bill. Now it's two and $300,000 for a bill that has to be paid. So I think that misconception that your problems go away with revenue, it's a myth. Like, I don't know who started it or who, but that math does not math. So for me, I know some of the challenges that you have as you grow, especially from like a 6-figure brand to a 7-figure brand, is even changes with who's going to get to your next level. So, like, for instance, with my brand, one of the true facts that I had to really look at, okay, who do I have on my team that can get to us to this next level? And so even from maybe like November-ish till maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago, I've let go of maybe 4 or 5 team members. And it was because what they may have been contributing before, what they may have been doing, it's not going to allow us to go from like a 7-figure brand to an 8-figure brand, because what I need to do that is other people who think just like me, people who are filled with strategy, not just execution. So that's another thing. A lot of people can be like task rabbits, when it's like, to get to another level, I need leaders, I need strategists, I need people who can think outside of the box and be
Thinkers,
confident in their
thinkers
decisions, whether
more
it's
than
right or
doers.
wrong, right?
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So I would say those are huge mishaps that happen in business. Another thing too is in terms of like numbers. Like you said, people get so caught up on like the revenue that they really don't understand the profits. Ooh, especially with e-commerce. So even with us, a lot of what we've been doing to get to our next level is like, how much are we spending on marketing? How much are we spending on this? And how can we maximize, optimize, and utilize what we've been doing in ways that can still get us to the next number, but to where we are profiting just as much as, we are saying like, oh, we hit this number. Do you got that number in the bank? So we're trying to make sure that our maths on the back end, with our numbers, with our processes, with our leaders, and with the tasks that we're fulfilling. So we're definitely shifting a lot of our roles to be sure that they have revenue generating activities. That's something you'll probably hear in Mastermind. Like, if nothing else, you're gonna get that. But really making sure that with every single person, they have like a sales goal and a number that's attached to their role, whether they're customer service, whether they're community, whether they're graphic designer, so on and so forth. So,
So thank you for having a result-based organization.
mm-hmm,
Like, I appreciate you having that. Not saying I thought you wouldn't, but I just appreciate you having that's any entrepreneur. And the reason why I say that, because when I have conversations with some entrepreneurs, they are hiring, like, nepotism is sometimes real. And
mm-hmm,
people just hire me because people are related and they have no real function there. I'm
yeah,
like, this is not lean at all. This is not,
right.
there's nothing lean about this operation. So thank you for that. And we're going to shift gears a little bit, because something that you told me prior to this recording is that something that you posted. Is it okay that we talk about that?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I'll just let you say it. I'll just let you say it. I'm just gonna let you say
Oh, okay.
it.
So I guess this is a
World
worldwide announcement.
alert.
So we talked about it a little bit, that I do organizational change management work, and so I've been doing that for some years now. Understand it, love it, live in it. And so I was doing that previously at Microsoft. So that was my last role. And so as of today, I actually put in my resignation at Microsoft, to really push and pursue like what it is that I'm doing. with a few with men as well as change management, in different spaces. And so what I mean by that is a few with men is what I am growing. That's my enterprise that I am growing and I'm a part of. And we have goals to reach, from 7 to now 8 figures is where we're really wanting to do. But like I mentioned earlier, I also have a passion to get other people within this space. And so, what I mean by that is in organizational change management, it is a world of opportunities, lucrative in pay, options, and just everything you can imagine that it's not necessarily available to people who look like you and I, or accessible, right? Like it's the accessibility thing that's so key because you already, or at least for me, before I got into the technology space, I had an idea of what that person looked like, and it was never me. So I really have made it a mission and purpose of mine to do very meaningful work with everything that I do. So continuing that with OCM and continuing that with a few men to really do meaningful work is like why I turned in the papers. So I was like, okay, this is not gonna work. This is going to be my last day, effective immediately. And it was really just a change of tides for me because I had to realize how many people's lives that I'm not impacting by staying there.
So I feel and honor your decision. Not that you need my permission or anything from me, but I think it's dope. And let me add some more context to that. I'm connected to quite a few people online in this moment, and I of course see people saying things like, I just they post their LLC paperwork, which is good. Or I have people that post and say things like, I just quit my job to go into business. And I see that and I say nothing. I don't like, I don't share, I don't comment. And the thing about that is, all when you have an LLC, all you did was you invested in the container of possibilities. That's all that
Mm-hmm.
that's all that happens. When you quit your job to go into business, my thing is I'm not wanting to celebrate what could be really dysfunction because you could be taking a job away that you could keep so that the job could become an investor into your dream. So
Yep.
I don't celebrate a lot of people saying I fired my boss. I'm like, you should have kept that boss.
No, keep it. I mean, for even for me, I kept my job. And the reason why I even had to go is because it's now become a bottleneck, right? So, like when I talked about getting to my next level, well, when I was 6 and 7, yes, I was able to manage it. But when I get to 8, it requires so much more of me that I'm like, dang, okay, I'm the blocker now because I'm trying to still split time here, still do this. And I'm like, I can't do that if I want to go there. But do I tell people to jump and leave that? Like, keep them checks, and I tell people all the time, like, I wasn't trying to eat noodles while building a business. Like, I was trying to live lavish, and I did, and I still will. But like, I like going on trips. I like living. I like living without issue, right? I don't want to ever feel like I'm living in lack. And so, yeah, keep your job, please. Until you get to a certain point. And even for me, I don't have a issue with me quitting because I know how to make money. A lot of people quit and I'm like, you don't even know how to make money for yourself. So like, what are you about to be doing? You're not going to get the money today. So have a plan. It doesn't have to be a long and drawn out business plan and all of these things, but have a plan for yourself that's realistic. Have milestones that you have met within your business before you take that plunge. And also be sure that you have a support system. So one thing I will say that was very different than any other time where I've thought of like quitting my job or leaving is this go around. I really did have a support system where everybody in my corner was like, I'm right here. Like you're not about to just shatter or feel like you're jumping out of the plane and you don't have a place to land. So that is also fundamental and key to have people who are like, I got your back, like I'm here, everything. So when I made this decision, I told my therapist first, like my business coach, I told my dude, I told like everybody first, like this is what I'm doing, and every single person was like, yes. So when I got those yeses, it affirmed my yes of why this was time. But outside of that, stay at your job, Clock in, and y'all ain't doing that much work anyway. Like, let's be real, you're not doing all of that. So people be playing, but really, your job is not the enemy. You know, think of it as being your investor. This is your friend. Y'all are there for a reason. You there for a reason. They there for a reason. Do it, leave, be on your way. So don't just jump and be like, well, I'm about to, start and spread my wings. Okay, go ahead and do it, but you're gonna be back in 6 months if you don't have no real plan.
Thank you for that. And another reason why you would stay, because your job, for the most part, probably and most likely, 95, if not higher percent of the time, has a systemized way of doing things. So a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times entrepreneurs they know, even if you do want to make money, you don't know how to create a system. So
Right.
if you're at the job, so for instance, I know what it's like to work at large defense contractors like Northrop Grumman and Halliburton and SAIC and all those types of companies. And what I did, now I'm going to be very clear, I didn't do it in a non-integral way. I wasn't stealing documents or any of those things, but I had conversations. So I wanted to talk to the people at document control. Like, why does a company need document control? Like, why do
Mm-hmm.
you need a whole code for one document? Oh, that's a part of operations.
Yes.
Oh, so you have a library of documents so you can find things faster. Oh, like, and oh, so you guys are cutting people off, like, why not just being in a state of pissosity because people are losing their job, but understanding the financial impact of why that decision was even made. So, like, oh,
Right.
you guys are looking at revenue and you guys didn't get the contract you thought you were going to get. So now you have to, oh, okay. So when you start understanding why the business is operating at the level it is that you're working at as an employee, and then use that to take that information to bring knowledge to your own business, then you can start thinking about leaving. But we haven't learned anything but, how to not work. We haven't
Right. And
learned anything.
LLC Twitter and all of that be gassing, it gasses people up.
Yeah.
Because entrepreneurship is not easy. And I think right now we're in a society where people think it's microwavable. I just get my LLC Friday and I get my PP loan Saturday, or whatever.
You
It's
don't go
just
to
people doing
jail.
crazy stuff. Yeah. But they just think that it's like a 1-2 step and I do this. And I'm like, no, like I put in a lot of hours for my brand. I'm up, all times of the night. I'm doing all of these things. I've made a lot of sacrifices. I have like a very small circle, and it's only because it's like I can't engage in certain things. Like if you want to do that, okay, cool. But my time is already allocated to certain things. So it is sacrifice to get certain rewards that, if everybody could do it, they would, but it's not a everybody type of thing. So don't think that you can do what everybody else does and be successful because you cannot.
Same. And I totally understand that whole you can't do everything, because I was talking to a friend about the fact that I'm single and the fact that there's something that someone might have already said it, but all I know is I haven't heard it until I said it. There's the loneliness of leadership.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing. And they're like, well, Asa, just get back on the dating apps. I haven't been on dating apps since January 1st in order to focus and stay clear on
Mm-hmm.
my revenue goal. They go, Asa, just use the app. I'm like, so here's the thing. Like, I'm actually in publications. Like, I've actually been on morning shows in the city.
Nice.
Like, you just can't see me on the app.
Yeah.
Because I'm like out here. So that's not really a thing for me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
I
I
mean,
don't.
I think that is I think I agree with that 100% because even for myself, it can be a lonely road that I feel like I feel like leadership as a whole can be lonely. Only because you have to separate yourself a lot of the time. So I have friends where we get a good kiki, but I'm like outside of the kiki, like I'm about my money, like I'm about my I don't do a lot of things that don't bear fruit, right? So I'm very strategic in how I do everything, like why I might do this or why I might do that, why I talk to this person or why I don't talk to this person. So when I have that type of thinking, for other people, they're like, why we just can't go to the such and such? Well, you can go. Like, you don't have anything to lose. I do. So that's like the difference. So, I'm always like very keen on that, like who I'm around, what decisions I make, how they think. So yeah, it can be very lonely until you find other people who think like that as well. And that's also people who carry integrity. Because I can find people who are smart, but then I'm like, okay, but you a scammer, then you like, I can't do this. So
You
it's
were
a lot of
definitely kind of
those,
smart. Yeah, definitely
it's
kind of
a lot
smart.
of those where I'm like, you smart, but you too smart, and that ain't where I'm trying to go. So yeah, I can definitely attest to that, but you just have to align yourself with people who have the same alignment as you, and can meet you at your core, because that's what matters.
Yes, and my mom is definitely somebody who definitely says, Asa, all right, do they have as much to lose as you do? So you don't need to
Yeah,
be dealing with folks who ain't got nothing to lose because you don't they just do anything they want to do.
they do.
So I agree with that. And to bring another point home, and this is as we begin to wrap up, is you had said something about you wanted to live lavishly, you wanted to travel, do all the things while you were building, and of course, um, being in that space of OCM, organizational change management, allows you to do things. But of course, having a seven-figure brand allows you to do things. So I
Mhm.
love to end my show on a joy note because I am not somebody, even though I understand that all of us as entrepreneurs, the day of your first sale to the until you begin to grow, you're going to experience all types of things. And I
Mhm.
get it. Some of those things are really, really trifling experiences. They just are. And you don't even want to tell. There are some testimonies that you can't tell. That's how
Mm-mm.
trifling they are. And there are moments of ridiculous joy
Mhm.
that make it all worth it. So the thing that motivates me to hit my seven figures are those joy moments. So that's my question to you is on your seven-figure journey, what are one or two things that you've either experienced or acquired as a result of having the brand you have now, the business you have now, that you can tell us that we can remember at 3:18 in the morning when we thinking like, there's no way this is gonna work.
Mhm. Okay, so for me, it's two things. So going back to the core of who I am, I love transformation in people. So one thing that I can't put a dollar amount on is a customer sharing their testimony with me. So that's always my why. And what I mean by that is like today, I think a customer, she had sent us an email and was like, we just got his watch and he cried, and like we've been struggling, people get to wanting to tell their testimony at church, like they get to doing that, and I don't mind it at all, because I'm like, okay, this is why we're in business, this is why we do what we do. But they share their experiences of that same feeling that I give my grandpa, like when I got his first watch and I designed his first watch. And when they can replicate that, it reminds me why we do what we do every single time. And I can't put a dollar amount on that, because I'm like, these are people I've never met. This is not a friend. This is not a family member. These are people who are potentially strangers, but they feel vested in our brand because of that mutual connection that we've built and that we have. So that always brings me joy for sure. Another thing that I like, and also kind of builds off of that, is knowing that my watches have touched places I've never been. I mean, it's absolutely amazing to know that you have products in states that you've never gone, that people recognize your brand, from afar by the logo. So when you think of like an Apple, if you see the Apple logo, you know who it belongs to. You see Nike, you know who it belongs to. But it's a good amount of our customers who they see our logo and they know who we belong to. And they're like, oh, that's the P Women. Oh, that's them. So to just know that people on a wider spectrum, it just reminds you that this movement is so much bigger than me. Like it's so much bigger than me being in my feelings or stuff not working today. And you will feel like that every 2 business days in business. Like I can just to hell with this, okay, this just ain't working. I'm ready to sell. I say that like once a week. But essentially, when you have that and you have orders that go to Hawaii, you have orders that go to different countries around the world, you're just like, whoa, this is a whole thing that is global. I've had customers, they've emailed me or they sent messages to like the brand inbox because like they're out of the country and they see someone else with the watch and they're like, is that a few women watch? They're like, yeah, dude, like, yeah, bro, like that. Yeah, yeah. And they have that whole thing. And I'm like, that is wild and bizarre. And that's beyond my wildest dreams to know it's so much bigger than me, period. So those are joys that I've been able to experience in my whys, and I can't put a dollar amount on that. So it's like we've gotten accolades, we've been in the GQs and Essence and stuff like that, but it's really when them customers come back to us.
Nice. That makes me very happy to know. Very, very happy to know. And so, with that being said, I would like to know for everyone else, what is the best way to reach you, whether it be organizational change management or a few wood men? Is there one way for both, or are there separate ways to reach you for those brands?
Yeah, so that is my mission next. So outside of building a few with men, I'm also building a little bit more of myself, like I mentioned, with my personal branding and my obligation that I feel to others. So people can reach me if they want to inquire at my email address. It's my first name, Shanayla, SHANAYLA at afewwithmen.com. Coming within the second quarter of this year, I'll be doing workshops to help entrepreneurs who are kind of in that in between space, really refining their target audience, really refining their branding and their positioning so that they can reach certain heights. And then also, I will have some more courses coming out for those who are wanting to make their transition into the technical space. So, previously, that was something that I offered last year where I helped those who were interested and they met certain qualifications to get into the tech space, whether that was OCM or other roles. So stuff like that will be available in quarter two. If you wanted to inquire about it, it's Shanayla at afewwithmen.com. If you are interested in learning more about the brand, it's info at afewwithmen.com. And we are A Few Women across all social media channels.
Yes, they are. I checked. And they are dope across all the channels. So please know that, yes, it's Shanayla at afewwoodmen.com. And of course, please go to the website if you are, you're just not available to do that in the moment, able to write that down. It's okay. It's in the show notes. I promise you, it's in the show notes so that you can reach out. Shanayla, thank you for coming on. You have been a delight, melanated joy for sure. Thank you so much. You have definitely made an impact for me, and so has your brand. And I haven't even bought anything yet, but I can see myself differently just from seeing that. And I haven't even done anything with it. So thank you for having that dream and doing something with the dream, for sure, because it made a difference for me and for you all out there. Please, like for real, please go to the site. You're gonna check it out and let me know what your thoughts are once you go, because you ain't gonna have nothing bad to say, I promise. So as always, I am Asa Leveaux, dreams and radical blessings.